Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio, and in today's episode, potato chips are running out in South Africa. There's a new price if you want to get a passport from November, and there's a new hijacking trend in South Africa, ladies and gentlemen, that we're going to chat about. And of course, later on tonight at 8 p.m., Mark Oppenheimer joins me on the show where we're going to talk about a few topics at hand, ladies and gentlemen. All this and a lot more coming up. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing? As always, Gavin in the chats doing his thing. Yes, thank you, Gavin, so much for the hard work you put in, my friend. How are you guys doing? It is a new week, Monday evening. How are you all doing? Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to check out my Telegram open group. It is really fun to be there, so go check it out. Don't forget to become a member. All that jazz. You know the situation now. If you're interested to become a member, please click the join button at the bottom of the video. It'd be great if you became a member. Lars Solis is in the house. Matthew saying EWC is good. Malema is a nice guy. Matthew, I worry about your sanity sometimes. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. There's some interesting things about to happen, we're about to talk about. One of which is I don't know if you guys have noticed. Like, maybe I should ask you first, but have you guys noticed that potato chips, specifically not your Lay's chips and stuff like that. I'm talking about the French fries that you buy them in the freezer section. In those 1 kilogram bags, 2 kilogram bags, or whatever, and you fry them or you put them in the oven or what have you. Have you noticed that they're running out? That you can only find sweet potato versions of that. I was in the shops over the weekend, and it's been about 2 weeks now. Maybe 3 weeks actually, that stock seems to be running exceptionally low. And I finally found an article on this matter to clarify what's going on, and it's not good. It's not good, unfortunately. But before I bring that article up, let me know if you guys have noticed anything at all about the potato chips. Apparently, restaurants don't have to worry about it. They will be well supplied. But yeah, we'll get into that in a moment. Guys, I'm very excited for later on my guest, Mark Oppenheimer, joining, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, the guy who went toe-to-toe against Julius Malema. And we're unfortunately, probably not going to talk about the appeal to the Kill the Boer case. But we will be chatting about the other case that Mark wasn't involved in, about the assault charges. We're also going to be talking about the EWC bill. And we're also going to be talking about a few other things, ladies and gentlemen. I think him and I very excited to have a conversation about a few things. The hate speech bill as well. Or not the hate speech bill. There's a bill... There's an amendment to the hate speech bill, something like that. He's gonna clarify more on that, and it's gonna be interesting conversation. Those are the main 3 things that we're gonna talk about on today's show, ladies and gentlemen. Very much looking forward to having Mark on the show once again. He'll be joining me at 8 p.m. You don't want to miss out on that. So if you're watching right now, you can always tune back again at 8 p.m. But remember, I do post the 1 hour interview on its own later on in the week, so you don't have to. So you can always share that as well. All right, so let's have a look at some of the stuff. Let's look at some of the stuffs. Look at this. Look at this. Look. I'm just adjusting my thing here. Yeah, so prepare to get your slap chips from KFC in coming months as duties hit supplies. Yeah. So if you've noticed a shortage in French fries, this is why, ladies and gentlemen. Frozen potato chips. There we go. Frozen potato chips may be scarce in the next month or two, as import tariffs of up 181% threaten to steer European suppliers away from South Africa. Local potato producers may direct supplies to fast food outlets and the quick service restaurant sector. A 2.5 kilogram bag of frozen chips, if supplied by producers in Germany, will cost up to 170 Rand at retailer, one expert has said. So I had Herman Ruiz on the show last week, and we were talking about some of the effects that are happening in the world. And potatoes, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I don't think this is actually related to, well, specifically to what Herman and I were talking about. But, you know, this is just one of the ideas or one of the topics we were talking about. It's like red tape. So there's tariffs the government has put on. So South Africa may face blah, blah. This as a newly imposed import tariff of up to 181% threatened. So a new import tariff, ladies and gentlemen, is causing a bit of a stir. It's insane. So now there's an increase in tire, right? That's happened. So tires are now more expensive. Now potato chips, frozen potato chips specifically, are more expensive. Yeah. The steep import taxes will pose a challenge for South Africa, which does not supply enough raw material to meet local demand for frozen French fries. Fred Hume, Director of Import-Export Business, Hume International, said. So there you go. But fast food outlets and restaurants may be saved by South African French fry producers who are likely to direct supply to major fast food chains and quickly service restaurants, leaving little stock for exports, if any is available at all, Hume International said. The customers rely on frozen French fry imports to meet their needs for the simple reason that they are not able to get consistent supply locally. Okay. So South Africa cannot supply its own people with frozen potatoes, so we rely on international other countries to import, right? But now there is a tariff being put on the potato chips. And now Hume warned of exceptional price hikes, stating that 2.5 kilogram bag of frozen chips from Germany will import taxes of 181 could cost between 160 to 170 Rand for 2.5 kilogram thing. So 1 kilogram bag should be around what? $80. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. And I mean, like, you're seeing it now, ladies and gentlemen. Like, this isn't like hearsay, right? Like, this isn't like, oh, we think this might happen. No. Like, if you go to the supermarket, like in the area where I'm at, where I'm in, okay, where I live, you can't find frozen potato chips. I've been looking for a while. Can't find them. So it's happening. Don't know what's gonna happen. Don't know what's. I mean, obviously, eventually we will get frozen potato chips again, but who knows? And a packet of potatoes already went up to 39, 100, and frozen chips going from 30 to 170. Yep, That's pretty much how it is. Hello, JC. How are you doing? Yeah. Cannot wait for Ian Cameron's book. Yeah, man, that's exciting. Ian Cameron's written a book. For those of you who may not know, I didn't know he was writing a book. Found that out today. So yeah, maybe I'll get him on the show. We can talk about it, but we'll see. I can still get at the Spar by us. Cool. I found like one bag of frozen potatoes at a Pick and Pay. This is the last one. And like I said, the sweet potatoes. Like I went to a Woolworths, there was nothing. Although I did find out that Woolworths, they sell frozen mashed potatoes. And I'm very curious about it. How does that work? Frozen mashed potatoes. I really want to buy it just to see how it all works. But anyway, so they had frozen mashed potatoes. They had sweet potato French fries, right? But no normal potato French fries, frozen potato French fries. All right, so there's a Woolworths, 2 Checkers, okay, and a Checkers Hyper, and eventually Pick and Pay last bag of frozen potato chips. Got it. So yeah, I'm just saying. Matthew says maybe not a bad thing, will help with your weight loss. It's not like I was eating it every day, man. I'm just saying. Yeah, exactly. I don't know, man. I don't. It's at Woolworths, so I think it would taste alright. I mean, would it? I don't know. I kind of want to just try it now. Just to see what it's like. How does this thing happen? Anyway, so thought I would share that with you guys. In other news, ladies and gentlemen, this popping up yesterday. Want a new passport? Prepare to fork out between 600 Rand and 1,200 Rand as Mitsuliti approves new fees. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to leave this country, you're going and you don't have a passport, it's going to cost you more now. And obviously it's going to cost you if you have to renew your passport. There's a quote that says, "We believe that people who are able to travel out of the country are financially better off than ordinary citizens." What a load of cock. That is like, oh man, just because, listen, there are a lot of South Africans that don't use flight to get out of the country. They actually use buses or other means of transport to get out of this country. Yes, traveling is expensive, depending on the mode of transportation. But if you're able to travel, it doesn't mean that you are rich or well off or whatever. I think every South African can have a passport. So anyway, let's just skip all the jibby jabber. So, well, apparently the fees haven't been adjusted since 2011. So that's all right. I mean, it's been a while since the fees were adjusted, so I can understand there's some costs involved that may be more expensive now. Okay, I can understand that. I can level with you on that. The new fees will be in effect from 1 November, ladies and gentlemen. But here are the new fees. The new fees for applications within South Africa. Adult passport, 600 Rand for 32 page. The current price is 400. 1,200 for 48 page, where the current price is 800. Child passport goes from 400 to 600. Official passport, no charge. That's not fair. Diplomatic passport, there's no charge. Why? Document for travel purposes has gone from 300 to 600, and crew member certificate has gone from 350 Rand to 600 bucks. Okay. So yeah. And then apparently the first application of an ID document is free. And the cost to reissue an ID document is 140 Rand. So that's not too bad. 140 Rand is not too bad. But yeah, there we go. Yes, do support the small shops. I agree with that. Smash the like button, and if you enjoy the content, subscribe. Thank you, Gavin. The elites don't want the serfs to travel and see what life is. Yeah. Poor people like me can also save 2 years for a holiday abroad. Exactly. It's not like the fee adjustment will better the services we receive from overfares. Exactly. They should pay us to get a passport. That's a good one. Yes, so there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You have to pay more now if you want to get a passport from the 1st of November. So if you're thinking about getting a passport, try and apply now in the month of October before the new fees hit. I renewed mine last year, I think, so I'm good for another 10 years. But yeah, I think there's not much to say. I mean, like JC McFarlane brings up a good point, right? It's not like increasing these fees are going to make the services any better. If anything, the services are worse. Who knows if these fees are really going to be, if the increase in the fees are really going to go towards what they say it's going to go towards, because they say that the costs of making these passports has increased, which is probably true. But they'll take advantage of that. We all know that. So, yeah. Anyway. We'll choose that one. I think you have to prove that you're, a diplomatic or something. What's it called? Someone in that area. But, yeah. I don't think it's fair. I think everybody should pay. Like, what the hell? But anyway. I guess for like ambassadors and stuff like that. Anyway. Oh, so you did like all three at once. Okay, cool. Driver's license every 5 years. I did that, I think, earlier this year as well. ID I did. I got like the new, the card ID, not the book. So my book was falling apart, so I got the card. And then I also, when I was doing my ID, I said, yeah, well, need to renew my passport too, so I might as well do that. Yeah, well, that's also true. Yeah. Anyway. And then something quite important I thought I'd share with you guys to be alert. We're heading into festive season. And, like, I can't believe it, man. It's like, what? It's like 2.5 months, I think, left of the year. Like, so we're almost midway through October, by the way. End of this week is halfway through October. Okay. Time is going too quickly. But you have, let's say, November, December. Yeah. November, December, then half of October. So you have 2.5 months left of 2022, ladies and gentlemen. Can you believe it? So we're getting closer to the end of the year, and things are getting interesting. Life is getting busy. Festive season is upon us, but this also means that some people, some criminals, are becoming very creative of new ways of basically robbing people. So I thought I would share with you guys this new hijacking trend to look out for in South Africa. So here it is. Basically, in a nutshell, you need to be careful when you're in a drive-through. Drive-throughs are no longer safe, ladies and gentlemen. So basically, what happens is this new trend, it has warned of a new modus operandi where motorists are being targeted while buying food at a drive-through establishments. Um, blah blah blah. So we are increasingly starting to see a concerning trend where criminals target unsuspecting patrons at drive-through establishments. Typically, as you get to the front of the queue, armed suspects from the vehicle in front of you get out and attempt to hijack your vehicle. There are usually two cars involved. The vehicle behind you blocks in your car when you try to reverse. So there you go. That's a big problem. Look out for that, ladies and gentlemen. Be vigilant. All right. There's some crime stats for you guys to look over, but there's a 14% increase in hijackings, which is insane. And that was in quarter one of 2022 and 2023. And then hijackings are also up quarter on quarter, climbing 8.6% in quarter four of 2021-2022. Looking at hijacking trends over the 3-month period, there was a sharp jump in May, followed by a decline in June. Crime rates tend to rise towards the end of the year, ahead of the Christmas period. Motorists need to be vigilant and aware of their surroundings. People tend to relax while queuing, often distracted by the task at hand and excited. Children, remember, as we move closer to the festive season, these type of optimistic crimes will unfortunately be on the increase. You need to stay vigilant at all times. Don't take chances unnecessarily. Some of the tips, some of these tips are good, but the last one I'm not too sure of. I'm gonna bear with me. So keep your bag in the boot. Just have your cash on hand or your card on hand. Easier said than done, but if you can arrange that, I would go for that. It's a good idea. But the problem is if you get kicked out of your car, then your bag goes with the car. So I'm not sure about that one. Only use well-frequented drive-thrus and avoid any retail establishments which are dimly lit and isolated at night. That makes perfect sense. Just don't do drive-thrus in the evening anymore. Try and only order food at peak times with patronage when patronage is at its highest. It's a good suggestion. However, anybody who's been at a drive-thru during peak hours, it's not fun. You like wait forever for your food, and then like if there's a mistake and it's like a thing, it's like no. Okay. Keep all your windows and doors closed while waiting for your order. That makes perfect sense. If possible, don't take the children with you to the drive-thru as they can be distracting. That is true. However, children also like the drive-thru because it's fun for them. They think of the McDonald's toy and all that stuff, or whatever toy. It's just fun for them. So this is up to you guys, what you guys want to do with that. I don't think it's a bad suggestion. Whilst waiting, check your rear view mirrors. And do not be distracted by music or cell phones. A good tip. If you suspect you could be a victim of hijacking, start pressing your hooter a number of times. Generally, hijackers do not like the kind of attention which draws interest. So that's also a very good tip. So if you're ever in a drive-thru and a guy gets out of his car, just start hooting the crap out of your car, right? And then boom, it should go away. If your children are with you, the eldest child should always be seated behind the driver and the younger child to the left, both on the back seat. Okay. I'm sure there's a safety aspect to that. I'm not sure what it is. And then if you are hijacked while your children are in the car, climb out of the vehicle slowly and move to the back door, directly behind the driver's door. Place one foot firmly in the car on the floor behind the driver's seat. As you lean across to retrieve your youngest child, the eldest child will probably cling to you, and you can get both children out of the car at once. Remember to stay as calm as possible. That paragraph has got to be the most ridiculous paragraph I've ever read about how to avoid a hijacking. It makes almost no sense. I mean, I think I know what they're trying to say. I had to read it a few times, but I mean, this is some Jason Bourne kind of escape here. that you only see in the movies. Like, so read this. Hold on. So if you are hijacked while your children are in the car, okay, climb out of the vehicle slowly. So climb out of the vehicle slowly and move to the back door directly behind the driver's door. So get out of the vehicle, okay? So you got to get out of the vehicle, okay? Slowly. This is all while apparently someone has a gun to your head, okay? So climb out of the vehicle slowly and move to the back door directly behind the driver. So the door behind you, okay? So you open that door, right? Okay. Place one foot firmly in the car, okay? One foot's in the car. In the car. On the floor behind the driver's seat. Yeah, okay. As you lean across to retrieve your young. So you've got to open that door, okay? One foot in the car. You lean forward to grab the youngest child, okay? And while you do that, the eldest child will probably cling to you, and you can get both children out at the same time. Remember to do this all calmly. I don't know. How do you guys feel about this one? Because this last tip seems like higher level security. You know what I mean? Like it seems higher grade. It's a higher grade achievement, man. It's like if I pull it off, achievement unlocked. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure how to feel about that one. Let me look at some of the comments. Gavin saying, I don't do drive-thrus. I don't blame you. Taking photos with... I got an empty wallet in my car just in case. It's actually not a bad idea for a decoy. I'm not going to lie. That's not a bad... Everybody should do that. Everybody should have like an empty wallet. Or even better, everybody should have like a wallet as a decoy, right? So you have a wallet in your dashboard or something, or cubbyhole, whatever you want to call it, glove compartment, right? And you just put $50 in there. Because what's $50, right? You just put $50 in there. It's always there. You don't use it. And if you ever get like mugged, hijacked, or whatever, you just give them the wallet. You go away. It's a decoy. It's not your real thing. It has no cards, no ID, no nothing. You could always be like have a bit of fun with it and put like little messages in there when they're searching the wallet, like, haha, got you, you know. Please accept this 50 Rand note for not killing me. And if you did kill me, please accept this 50 Rand note. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Happened to me 2 years ago. Oh, wow. Okay. Sorry to hear that. JC. He says, happened to me 2 years ago, but I must say I shouldn't have stopped at a drive-thru at night in a dodgy area. Well, yeah. However, luckily I could speed off and claimed money back the next day via call. Okay, cool. Nice. So one of the tips is true. Don't. Which one was it? Use frequently drive-thrus and avoid retail establishments which are dimly lit or isolated at night. So there you go. Don't go to ones that are quiet. Such a shame that we have to be doing all this. Criminals run this country. Where is the man in the hat? Yeah, no, don't get me started on that guy, man. Don't get me started on that guy. Flip. We are on our own, Gavin. We are on our own. That's just how it has to be. It's a dog-eat-dog world right now. And, yeah. Last paragraph is basically impossible. All of this happens within seconds. Exactly. Will this be the new driver's test? They should, actually. They should really try and do that. An old Nokia and a decoy. Yeah, exactly. Nokia 3310 puppy. Like, I'm pretty sure that if you gave that cell phone to the hijacker, they'd just be like, "Hey," and throw it back at you. Like, um, they would not even a hijacker would want to steal that phone. Like, that's how. Ah, man. But yeah, guys, be safe out there. I thought I'd bring it to you guys' attention. It's always good to be vigilant when it comes to this kind of stuff. I haven't been in a drive-thru in a while, but you know, I'm definitely going to be, you know, in the future, you know, more vigilant and careful. But I think it's only with dodgy areas and quiet. Sorry, like if you go to a drive-thru late at night and it's quiet, that's when this stuff will probably happen. So yeah, unfortunately, it is what it is. And Gavin, you bring a good point, man. Where is the cat in the hat? Well, he's nowhere to be found. He's busy. He's busy chasing people on beaches, and he's busy, you know, trying to make appearances and saying that, you know, playing "I Will Survive" at Mbiza's and telling ordinary citizens to shut up or shut up. So yeah, I do want to check out one thing actually, because Gavin mentioned it earlier. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. See if I can find it. Yeah, there it is. It seems like I'll show you guys right now. Okay, there it is. Found it. Here we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm on Ian Cameron's fresh book thing. I wanted to see his book, and it seems like here it is. There's his book, man. We Will Not Shut Up. That's what he's. It's the title of his book, ladies and gentlemen. Will be unveiled this week. I'm incredibly proud. Launches his book later this week. During the event, while our nation is murdered everywhere at an alarming rate, our police minister still persisted with his historical and political agenda. The me, myself, and I egotistical rant from Tere on the podium that day won't easily be forgotten by no one. Not only did the minister remove any doubts about his political bias, but in my opinion also became a source of embarrassment to the ANC. The rest is, as they say, history. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Are you excited to see or to read Ian Cameron's book? I have no idea what exactly it's about. Well, let's see if we can get some context here on the book itself. Between 2013 and 2021, a total of 10,086 SAPS members were charged with serious criminal offenses. Murder, rape, and assault are some examples. The SAPS has formally suspended only 50 of these more than 10,000 members. In the midst of all this despair, a young man with a plan. Okay, wait. I gotta do a. I'm gonna try and do a movie voice for this. Okay, with this quote. Here we go. I'm gonna try. Okay. Wait. Hold on. Okay. Okay. Just getting ready. Okay. Movie voice time. This summer. Okay. Almost there. This summer. Okay. So here we go. In the midst of all these despairs. Okay, I messed up the script there. Hold on. In the midst of all this despair, a young man with a plan and the courage to stand up to an untouchable political... Haven't read the script before, ladies and gentlemen, so give me a second. In the midst of all these... In the midst of all this despair, a young man with a plan and the courage to stand up to an untouchable political bully comes to the fore. It would be my honor to walk the road to change with a visionary like Ian Cameron, Devet Potgieter, investigative journalist, newspaper editor, author. To fully appreciate... Wait. I'm Batman. This summer, I'm Batman. To fully appreciate how long the Emperor has been without clothes, our vision has... I don't know why I'm reading it like... what's that guy? What's his name? From Star Trek. What's his name? We need new power. No. Brought to you by ESCOM. What's... Hold on. I'm making myself laugh. Sorry. Okay. So, yeah. No. Yes. Is this Spock? Is it the other guy? Okay. I can't do Taken, man. I can't do Liam Neeson. Don't ask me to do how did it go again? Like, I will find you. Was it? I will. I don't even remember the line. Buzz Lightyear. What the hell are you on about? Anyway, let me to fully appreciate how long the Emperor has been without clothes, our vision has to mature into awareness. With this book, Cameron has pried open a portal to the truth. Let's go forth, equipped with insight, and take prompt and effective action this summer. Ian Cameron. We will not shut up. I didn't know what to say when I said like Ian Cameron is, and then I was like, oh wait. That won't make sense if I say Ian Cameron is, we will not shut up. So Ian Cameron is Ian Cameron. Coming to a bookstore near you. Oh wow, thank you. All right. Anyway, did get a bit of insight into what this is all about. So yeah, look, I'll see if I can definitely support Ian and buy a copy and have a little squiz at it. I think it would be interesting. I think so. So yeah, guys, we'll look out for it, and I'll have Ian on the show to talk about it once the book is officially or has officially launched. This summer, one man, one police minister go head to head. Liam Neeson is Ian Cameron in We will not shut up. Sounds like those commercials before the movie starts. It's sticker in the corner. Thank you. That's the movie guy. It's always that, this summer. What's his name? Pablo Francesco has a few jokes about that voice. I've always wanted to bring that to the stage, but like I can't because Pablo Francesco is kind of like, I feel like he's done the thing. So every now and again, I just like narrate myself, like in my to myself, like this summer, I just like out of nowhere, just like this, just this summer, Ian Cameron, we will not shut up. But yeah, I wonder if you can do it to like anything. Well, almost anything, I think. But yeah, I like that. I like the suggestion from Voot, like Liam Neeson is Ian Cameron. That was a good one. Cool. Yeah. So, what else? Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in just over 15 minutes, Mark Oppenheimer is going to be joining me. So, Van der Merwe PI, very funny. Oh, I know who that is. That's Rolf and Furen. That's his new little, isn't it? I think so. Van der Merwe. And if you think that guy's funny, then okay. Like, okay, don't get me wrong. Like, he is funny, but yeah, I thought so. Yeah, man, it's Rolf and Furen from Cornet and Twaki. Yeah, it's his new little thing that he's doing. No, this is not. That's different. Wow, this is like old stuff. Is it? Wait, I'm getting confused now. Is it Rob and Furen or is it Van der Merwe PI? No, this is an old one because I thought Rolf and Furen was doing something like this, but this is old, man. Are you talking about the old one, or are you talking about? Yeah, okay, it is the old, 5FM thing. Yeah. I don't want to get a copyright strike, so yeah. The guy that would, yeah, but that's not the same voice. That's Ronaldo's voice. Was that tonight on E? And that sounded a bit like Hispanic, to be honest. Yeah, man. How many times has Anaconda played on ETV, man? Like crazy amounts of time. But yeah. Cool, man. All right, so some of you like the accent, some of you don't. It's okay. But thank you for the positive feedback. I think they should make a movie or a documentary of Ian Cameron. I think that'll be very interesting. Sorry if I sniff, by the way. My nose is still not 100%, man. I don't know what's up with my sinuses. I was like on antibiotics and everything, and I'm still not feeling 100%. I actually almost didn't do the stream tonight, but I didn't want to cancel or postpone on Mark. But as you guys can see, I don't have a stream for the rest of the week. Well, we are going to be back with... I've got to set it up. I'm going to be doing Comedians Roast the Headlines this week, so that's on Thursday evening. But besides that, there's no other stream because I need to figure out what's going on with this. And it's annoying because I can't go to gym. Why every time I'm getting so good at going to gym and like consistent and all that stuff, I either get sick or something's wrong. No, it's not COVID, Matthew. I'm not sick. Like, that's the thing. I don't have a fever. I'm not like coughing or sneezing, or I sneeze a little bit, but not. It's not a sick sneeze. It's a irritation in my nose sneeze. And then so like I get like a blocked nose and stuff. So I have to, yeah. So one of the things I have to do, guys, is really disgusting. Is you take this, it's a medical device, okay? Really simple thing. It's a bottle about yay big, all right? And probably about that much in diameter, okay? And so it's a small thing. It's a small little bottle thing, right? It's about 200 mils. Not that big, okay? It's got a little nozzle, okay? And you've got a, not a light cold. It's not a light cold, not hay fever. I went to the doctor, guys. She checked out. She said my sinuses were highly irritated. She put me on antibiotics. It wasn't a sinus infection. But anyway, so so I've got to. The doctor said I had to use this device. Okay, it's a plastic bottle. You can squeeze it. All right, it's got a nozzle at the top. You put it on your nose here, and you've obviously got to fill it with distilled water, a concoction of sorts that they give you, like a few drops of this, and I don't know what stuff is in there. Okay, it tastes salty, and you press really hard, and the water goes into the nose here, comes out the other side, and then you switch sides, and you do it this side, and it comes out the other side, and a whole lot of stuff comes out. Although it does feel good, because usually in the morning, you do it in the morning. I was thinking of recording it, but then I was like, nah, this is too embarrassing and too disgusting to put in the public eye. But but you squeeze, and man, it feels so good afterwards. Like it's very uncomfortable during the process, but once it's done, you sneeze, or not sneeze, sorry, you blow your nose or whatever, and then your nose just feels so much better, because all that gunk that was stuck up there is now out. So yes, that's the one. That's the one. Thank you, Richard. That's the one. I've never done it before, and it's been an experience for the past week to do it. And I thought I was gonna hate it. I thought I was gonna like. I mean, like I said, it's discomforting. It's not my favorite thing to do, but man, in the morning when you have a blocked nose and there's nothing else that's helping, whew, I can breathe. So yeah, that's my week so far. And I'm getting worried because my nose. It's not as painful as it was when I went to the doctor, but it doesn't feel like it's getting any better either. So yeah. Buffer. Why are you why are you saying please buffer? I just muted you, Grossman. Man, you see, like that's like I'm not like I thought of recording it, right? Like I thought like the first time was because like the first time I did it, man, you did not want to know what came out. But the first I thought of like, oh, maybe if I should record it, it'd be fun to put like on TikTok or something. And then I was like, no, you know what? That may not be the best idea. So I didn't. Ben Fraser says, for sinus, you need to take a teaspoon of honey in the morning and night, but it must be pure and taken in your area. the last part is confusing me. Okay, pure I understand, but taken in your area, like I gotta get honey from my backyard. Is that what you're talking about? Um, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, to join the Telegram group. Please, please do. Um, I don't. I don't think he was buffering, Gavin. I think he was asking for it to please buffer. But anyway, um, some funny stuff. Anyway, okay. So Mark should be joining us anytime now, ladies and gentlemen. Once he does, we'll go on a quick break, just to get things set up in the back end, and then we'll be back with Mark Oppenheimer. We're going to talk about the Julius Malema trial, recent one about his assault, the assault case where he was deemed not guilty. Gonna get Mark's view on that. We're gonna chat about EWC bill, the expropriation bill. What's new with that? Should we be worried? Should we not be worried? This is part of, the people that I said I was gonna get on this channel to talk about the EWC bill. A lot of people not that concerned, surprisingly. I think we should be concerned, but a lot of people not concerned. And Ben Fraser clarifying, saying, find a beekeeper in your area. Okay, that's easy. I'll just go down to the Pick and Pay and ask them where they keep the beekeepers. That should be quite simple to do. No, actually, to be fair, Ben, Checkers Hyper has honey that comes straight from, and it's quite pure. It's quite nice. So that's the honey I use to like when I want to have something sweet. But yeah, anyway. Okay, so Mark is here, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to go on a quick break. I'm going to get set up in backside. That came out wrong. Going to get set up backstage. And then we'll be back momentarily, hopefully in the next 2 to 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere as we chat about Julius Malema and his assault case where he was found not guilty. We're going to chat about the EWC bill, or the expropriation bill, and we're also going to chat about something else. I'm trying to remember what it was, but I'll remember in good time. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, the hate speech bill. That's the one. Hate speech bill. Okay, so I'll be back in a second, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's break time, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about becoming a member to this channel. So why should you become a member to this channel? It's a great question. You're gonna get a lot of exclusive perks. I mean, if I have a one-man show, for example, you're gonna get up to 50% off on the tickets. You get exclusive access to the Joe Emilio Show WhatsApp group. You also get access to other things, ladies and gentlemen. If you wanna know more, go to the join button at the bottom of this video to see all the information on becoming a member. At least subscribe to the channel. If you like what you're seeing so far, subscribing is always free. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to the show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio, and as always, well, not as always, with me tonight is Mark Oppenheimer, ladies and gentlemen, advocate extraordinaire in South Africa. You may have noticed or seen him when he was fighting the good fight against Julius Malema, and you have probably seen him in other cases as well. Mark, how are you?
Yeah, excellent, man. Thanks for having me. It's always good to be here.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So we got quite a few topics to talk about, but before we get into that, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you do have any specific questions for Mark, feel free to pop them into the chats. I will take note of them, and hopefully towards the end of the stream, we'll address them. But if Mark feels that he wants to address any of the questions immediately, he's more than welcome to as well. Mark, I'm sure you can see the questions coming through if they do. Other than that, Mark, let's start with the hate speech bill. I don't even know if that's the correct title, but recently there was a bill, I think, in... Well, you explained. There's recently like a thing with the hate speech bill. Please explain why we should be concerned about this.
Okay, so a little bit of backstory. It's the Hate Crimes and Hate Speech Bill. It had there'd been a hate crimes bill that had been in the works for a long time, and the purpose of that bill was to be able to take into account when someone is motivated by hatred when committing a crime. So, in other words, it would be a different kind of sentence that you would get if you beat someone up because they're Jewish or they're black, as opposed to it was an ordinary assault. That process had been worked on for a long time. There was a hate crimes working group. And then the Penny Sparrow incident happens, 2016. And Minister John Jeffries says, what an amazing occasion to try and suppress speech. So let's tack on this hate speech portion onto the hate crimes bill. And the idea at the time was that, everybody hates Penny Sparrow. This is this most vile racist person, and we can't tolerate this kind of thing in our society, and we need to put these racists behind bars. And the press is cheerleading this, and this sounds absolutely wonderful, until it's pointed out to them that the bill is a dramatic overreach and would result in a lot of journalists themselves going to jail. And civil society kind of stood up and said, hold on a second, we can't have legislation like this in a free and democratic country. And so everyone got together, they put in their submissions. I did some for clients. The kinds of things that would have been outlawed, it results in jail time, so many years in prison, were if you made fun of someone. Ridicule was one of those things that was taken into account. And the way that it was drafted was incredibly restrictive of speech. So after the submissions came in, the bill disappeared for a number of years. It then resurfaced again in 2018. Much better than the prior versions, but still quite clearly unconstitutional. At the same time, I was involved in a challenge to the Equality Act on behalf of John Quilani. And the Equality Act is currently what determines whether there is hate speech or not. And the Constitutional Court held that that act is unconstitutional for being too restrictive of speech and struck down the hate speech clause. It's come up with a new interim model. It's up to Parliament to put in a proper full definition, but it gets much closer to our Constitution. Although there were some deviations, and the argument was you could justify these deviations because in the equality setting, all you can do is fine people or make them apologize or interdict them from further speech. But in the criminal context, you're putting people behind bars. And so there you want to be very strict. So the bill has again resurfaced. The Minister of Justice has sort of taken into account some of the concerns. It's at the moment at a stage where they're trying to take into account people's proposals. It may get to a constitutional point, but my view is that when you're going to put people behind bars, you want to protect speech as much as possible, and you must abide by the test in our Constitution, which is advocacy of hatred on the grounds of race, gender, ethnicity, or religion, and that constitutes an incitement to cause harm. So there's a call to action. You're targeting out a particular protected group, and there you might have the latitude to punish people. What we have at the moment is that many more groups besides the four listed are included. So groups like age, language, culture, belief, all those things are included. The belief one is particularly strange because you might imagine that there's someone who believes that white people are better than black people. They have racist beliefs. And you say stuff like, we should boycott all of their shops. One of the grounds of harm that's listed is economic harm. Now it seems like you've committed an act of hate speech that could send you in jail because you said, don't buy from racists. So that seems like a weird problem. There's some other problems with how harm is defined. So it includes emotional harm and psychological harm, although through our submissions, the idea is that they have to be of a quite severe nature. But cultural harm has been added in, and social harm has been added in, and that stuff starts to worry me. I don't know what counts as a cultural harm.
Yes. Sorry, I just want to jump in there because that's actually the main thing I wanted to talk about. Is that cultural harm? Almost another side of it is also offense. Like if you take offense to something, but like offense in itself is subjective, right? Any like I could say a lot of things on this channel that some people might find offensive to their ears, but if this bill goes through, I could be held accountable for those sayings, and then doesn't that muddy the waters quite a bit? I mean, how does one Because as I understand from my dealings with the law, right? If let's say I say something offensive, but I didn't intend for it to be offensive, it was just you interpreted it as offensive. So now you would have to, or we would both be in court. You would have to explain why you found it offensive, and I would have to explain why, or what I said wasn't offensive. And in in order for either of us to win, the court has to kind of, um, whether it's your argument or mine, there has to be beyond a shadow of a doubt situation, right? Like whatever your defense is, then the court needs to see that as beyond a shadow of a doubt. Okay, that makes sense, Mark. You were right. We agree with you. Therefore, ergo, Joe, you're going to jail. Is that how it's going to be?
Okay, a couple of things to unpack. So the one is you talk about offensive speech. The case law basically says offensive speech is protected speech, but obviously we went into this difficult territory as to what counts as offensive and what counts as harmful. Um, and it seems like if we look at recent cases, it's pretty unclear.
Hmm.
That someone will say it's merely offensive, the other side will say no, it causes emotional harm. Very difficult to differentiate the difference between those two things. I mean, the case law uses strong words like, if it's shocking and offensive, it's still protected. Harm, how we traditionally understood it, is that it's physical harm. When you're calling on someone to go and burn someone's house down or assault them, we go, oh, okay, I know what that is. That's a type of harm.
But what
If
about
someone,
emotional harm?
yeah, exactly. And what's emotional? Is it I got sad or angry for a bit, and then it
What
passed?
if the one argued, well, it caused me trauma, and I had to go for counseling, and now I'm on medication to deal with my anxiety.
Yeah, so then we might start to pay more credence to it. In other words, the kind of thing where we go, okay, look, you've got an external expert who can substantiate this. Um, so maybe there you could say there's something more to it. It's not just a passing thing. It's like, as you say, an actual trauma. We can imagine some cases like that where that could occur, and we might think that's justifiable. Um, on the objective test stuff. So the way it works under the Equality Act is that it's not intention that matters. It's what the reasonable reader would understand the words to mean. Um, so when someone says a phrase, they can't say, "Well, I never meant it that way." You've got to understand it from the context. So it's not merely a matter of what the listeners say or what the speaker says. The judge is meant to determine it based on the ordinary meaning of the words in light of when it was said. In a criminal test, ordinarily, as you say, we look at intent, subjective intent. This hate speech bill looks like it wouldn't do that. It would ask, did you intend on publishing it? But then when we're trying to work out the meaning of the words, then it's a reasonable reader test. And so that's also a deviation from the ordinary criminal law test and something worth flagging. Um, One of the other questions is whether the speech actually causes harm. So, incitement to harm, for example, doesn't actually require a harm occurs. You're calling on people to perform a harm, and you don't have to check whether the harm actually resulted, merely that you are inciting them. Um, and in the equality setting, that strikes me as a fair test. But if you're going to jail someone, you might think that you should only have jail time if the harm results. Otherwise, you could have lower penalties. I think it's worth drawing those kinds of subtle distinctions.
Yeah, and it also does make it also very complicated, because again, the everything's it's you're muddying the waters. It's obviously during these kinds of proceedings, things get very emotional, especially for the plaintiff and the defendant. And yeah, it's just very difficult for me to imagine a world where, I have to be so careful about what I say on the off chance that someone might find it offensive or culturally offensive or whatever, offended, or however you want to put it. I mean, isn't, like you said, this is gonna dramatically restrict our freedom of expression or freedom of speech, because even does it, and that's another question I have, is does it count for freedom of expression? Because expression can be, it's not just words, it's paintings, it's videos, it's movies, it's all that stuff. If I find I don't know, a painting offensive, can I take that artist to jail for that?
Yeah, so there are some exceptions built into the legislation, but they're not absolute exceptions. So they do talk about artistic work, scientific inquiry, religious texts. They're protected provided they don't incite harm. That's the claim. Um, and so they're not fully protected. You're right that it wouldn't just be words. The Equality Act used the term words, which was then later interpreted to kind of mean anything you want it to mean, like flags, for example. Um, but yeah, this one is drafted more broadly so that it would be all sorts of different kinds of communication. I'll give you an interesting case for cultural harm. So in Myanmar, there's a model who had an OnlyFans account and was jailed for 15 years on the grounds that what she was posting was a cultural harm to Burmese culture. Um, so that gives you a sense of how these things can be used. In other words, it's not plaintiff defendant as well, it's criminal. So the state decides you've done something that offends whatever culture, and so you must be punished and jailed. So, that seems like a worry.
That's a big worry, especially when you have a government like the ANC who can just like pick on certain people. They think, oh well, we think what you're saying is culturally inappropriate to our nation, so ergo you're in the chicky, which is a very big problem. But okay, I also want to know, as a comedian, I'm safe.
I wouldn't count on it at all. I mean, it's it's an interesting thing. So satire is sort of seen as a defense in the civil context for defamation, for example. Although it's one of those sort of areas that's a little bit dicey, and we have the thing called the defensive jest, but it's been tested in our law and hasn't always worked. Um, Comedians strike me as a group that are particularly under threat. If you think about it in the states, comedians have been assaulted on stages. Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock. Um, and I think there are cases of there was a comedian in Egypt a while ago that was concerned about being jailed. Um, so yeah, I'd be worried.
Well, what I'm okay, like obviously, if you're a comedian, you go out and say kiss the board, kill the board. That's a different story. But if I'm just out there, like again, because comedy is subjective, right? There might be a joke out there that a lot of people find really funny, but there's that one guy or girl or whatever that says, no, 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 that joke to me was offensive for whatever reason. I don't know. I spoke about whatever topic, relationships, and it offended the person or whatever. That's where it can become dangerous, right? Because if that person felt offended by the joke, they could take me on. But can't I defend by saying, well, it's artistic, I'm a comedian, it's a joke?
Yes, so you'd have the defense of saying, let's say the claim was it's harmful speech. Okay, so let's say that's sort of similar to offensive speech. You could say, look, it was done in the context of art, and so look, the term they use is they say bona fide artistic creativity. They might go, look, Joe, we don't think what you're doing is art. You're a comic. We wanted to protect high art, real art.
Okay.
Classical music and painters, not you scumbag comedians. You think you know what you're doing when you make fun of us government officials or whatever. So that be that worry. But if you were, let's say, inciting harm, and again, you're supposed to look at the context. So you got to sort of say, like, let's say you said, you know what? I'm just so sick and tired of seeing all these colonial buildings. They just fill me with absolute revulsion and disgust. And at the end of the show, I hope that all of you get out and you go and grab yourself some gasoline, and you do what needs to be done to these like ugly buildings. But from the context, it's kind of clear that you're cracking jokes. You might not be protected. You might be. But the fact that you could go to jail for a couple of years might make you not want to tell the joke.
No, well, no, you are right that comedians nowadays are a bit under attack. And there's no doubt about that. I mean, it's no longer safe to even tell jokes on stage. You could get slapped in the face, and that seems to be a trend at the moment. So, but for the most part, I think most people that go to a comedy show know what to expect. But there's always that one oddball in the audience that might just ruin everything. But anyway, getting into more of the nitty gritty. So where does this bill stand at the moment? Is it going through? Is it becoming law? Are they still hashing definitions out? What's the stage here?
Yeah, so it's still at a committee stage. It hasn't been voted on. There isn't final language. It seems to have been going through many rounds of division. A number of organizations have put in submissions and participated, and there are still quite serious concerns. So it hasn't gone to a vote, but it's worth keeping an eye on.
And how is there a platform where we can submit, like the public can submit like a comment or anything, or is that process now done?
That process has occurred.
Okay.
So I think the public put through about 100,000 submissions through DRSA. And interestingly enough, in the feedback session to all the different organizations that put in submissions, people got kind of responses. You got a summary of this is what you said, this is what we're going to do about it. Either we take your point, we're going to change it, or we take your point, we're doing nothing about it, or we think what we've done is fine. So it didn't take into account public submissions. And then they said, oh, okay, fine, we'll take into account the public submissions. They also left out the IRR and freedom of religion South Africa. So they then revised that, took those into account, but dealt with the public in a weekend. And the view was it can't be. You can't have read 100,000 submissions in a weekend. So that's still something to be dealt with.
Oh wow. Okay, so there's a lot of shady stuff happening as well. Okay, well that makes it interesting. But I'm gonna, before we move on to the next topic, I'm gonna get to some of the questions that I highlighted here. The first one I'm gonna go to is Debbie Moray. Thank you so much for tuning in, Debbie. She says she has a question for Mark. What about sending a pic, like the suggestive cartoons that have dual or double meaning? Can that be regarded as a lawsuit, or if it's offensive?
Yes. So there was, as I say, some debate in the Equality Act about what counts as the term used as words. And so there was a question as to whether things like cartoons counted as words. The early case law basically says the images aren't included. This got tested in the flag case, and there the court held no, words means images, symbols, flags. It's a real strange interpretation of the term. When you talk about speech or expression, I'll buy that that could have broader categories. Words strikes me as a very particular form of speech. But yeah, so you could, let's say, in the defamation context, Zapiro was sued by Zuma for cartoons. The double meaning, so that might be one of the things that you have in defamation law is an innuendo. So it might be that it's on its face, the cartoon is innocuous, but once you know what the extra meaning is, that's the defamatory sting, and the innuendo is what could get you in the trouble. Then there'll be a fight over what the meaning of it is. But if it can bear that defamatory meaning, then you could be held liable. And I would think a similar thing about the hate speech. In other words, is one of those meanings going to meet the threshold? If so, and it's a reasonable reading, then you could well be held liable for it. We can imagine, for example, like the term cockroach in Rwanda, could have a kind of, let's say it's meant just an ordinary insulting meaning, or it refers to actual cockroaches. There it's referred to a particular ethnic group, and it was a kind of call to kill them. And so, that playing on the innuendo might very well amount to genuine hate speech.
There you go. And then another question from JC McFarlane with regards to this bill that's coming in. So I wouldn't be able to criticize the government.
No, I don't think that's the case, but it might restrict how you criticize the government. So bear in mind, one of the things that's a requirement of hate speech laws is that you're referring to a group, one of those protected groups. Now, the ones in the Constitution, race, gender, ethnicity, and religion, are narrow. The ones that are in the bill are much, much broader. One of the ones that was in there was going to be occupation. And I pointed out in one of our submissions, well, if people want to make fun of politicians, because ridicule was one of the terms that was used, well, suddenly you'd be committing a crime. And so, that was withdrawn, the term ridicule and the occupation. So, but it might be that people might criticize the government in a manner that does meet the threshold and is also criticism. And so it might restrict how they're able to criticize. But I would think if you said the ANC are incompetent and they're stealing from us and thieves and things like that, that wouldn't amount to hate speech. Might very well be defamatory. And I saw that the ANC wanted to sue the former mayor of Joburg for calling them a bunch of crooks. I hope they run that litigation. There's a very famous defamation case. There's a guy who was a restaurant critic, and he wrote this review about this guy's Italian restaurant. He said, the restaurant is absolutely filthy. There were rats running around, and the food tasted awful. So the guy sued him. He said, how dare you? The test in defamation law is, would a right-thinking person think less of you having heard the statement? And he said, you're going to think less of me having heard the statement. Anyway, so during the trial, they read all the evidence, and at the end, the judge says, I did an inspection in loco. I went to your restaurant, and the food was terrible, and there were rats running around, and it was absolutely disgusting. So it's true. And I would think that if a similar exercise was done with regards to the ANC, it would be pretty apparent that they are corrupt. I mean, you've got the Zondo Commission saying exactly that. So
Exactly. I was
sue,
gonna
go right
say
ahead.
hello Zondo Commission. Like that's all. That's all. The former mayor needs to do is just walk into court with the Zondo Commission. Boom, sorted. Case over.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, all right. So let's move on to the next topic, which is we're gonna talk a bit about the expropriation bill that was passed by National Assembly about 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you know a lot about it, but let's talk about it. I'm a little bit concerned because I know that there's some things in that expropriation bill that are concerning. But I've spoken to a farmer now who doesn't seem too concerned. He's concerned about other things that are happening in South Africa, like load shedding and other things. And he has many good points. And DRSA also concerned, but waiting for expropriation to happen before they want to first see what happens before they do anything about it. Where do you stand on this? I regard you as a very knowledgeable advocate. You know the law quite well. So you as a lawyer, where do you stand on the expropriation bill?
Okay, so first of all, as you say, it's been passed by the National Assembly. It's still got to be passed by the NCOP and then signed into law by the president. So it's not an act yet. I've did a lot of work on the proposed changes to our constitution, which would have been absolutely devastating. And I'm very glad to see that the forces of good triumphs on that front. This piece of legislation, if passed, wouldn't be nearly as dramatic. But there are some sections that do concern me, and it strikes me as unconstitutional on its face. So the portion of the bill to check out for people that are interested is at section 12.3, which has the circumstances where nil compensation could be paid. It also lists circumstances, but says it's not limited to them. So that's a concern as well. In other words, not a closed list. Other things could be there. Normally we think in order for something to be a law, you need to know how it's going to operate. One of the ones that concerns me is it says where the land is not being used and the owner's main purpose is not to develop the land or use it to generate income, but to benefit from appreciation of its market value. So if you think about why you buy shares, why do you buy shares? You hope that they're going to be worth more money in the future. You are only buying them for the sole view that they're going to appreciate in market value. And we don't think that because you bought shares and risked your capital, because they could go down in value, like a piece of land could, that the state should be able to confiscate them from you and give you nothing. So that's a concern. So scroll down. I see on your screen you've got 12.1. That sort of go down to 12 sub 3.
Sorry. 2. I see 2.
You might have an earlier version of the bill. So there's a 2020 version.
Okay, wait. I'll let you continue.
Yeah. So that's one of the cases that worries me. It seems like those of you who are familiar with Johannesburg, Midrand was owned by the Mia family, and it was basically big plots of vacant land. And eventually they decided they would develop it, and it was turned into Waterfall Estate, large parts of their land. But for like 100 years, they kept it, and the money that land was given to them by Paul Kruger. And this would have allowed the state to have taken it from them and given them nothing, and that strikes me as a problem. What's interesting, one of the other examples that's given says where an organ of state holds land that is not being used for its core functions and is not reasonably likely to require the land for its future activities in that regard, and the organ of state acquired the land for no consideration. Yeah, that looks like the right one. So scroll down a bit. Um, the next page will have the list. So I'm busy reading B. Now, organs of state, it's in other words not private citizens. Organs of state are quite broad in the Constitution. How they've been understood. So it could be a city, it could be like public health sectors, ESCOM like parastatals. Bear in mind, of course, that the ANC doesn't run all organs of state. So in the Western Cape, for example, organs of state are run by the DA. And the expropriating authority here might be the national government. So you can imagine it says, we don't like that you have this thing and we don't think you're using it for its core functions. So we're going to take it. There's a proviso, which is that the land was acquired for no consideration, which means they didn't pay anything for it. Now, if they think that's a just thing to do, why not add that to the other cases? In other words, where a person got land for paid nothing for it, then you can say, well, we can take it from you for nothing. The state, so other people paid for the land when the speculator went out and bought his land for $1 million, hoped it'll be worth $2 million in a couple of years. The state goes, well, yoinks, we're taking it, we're giving you nothing. C is also a concern. So it says where an owner has abandoned land by failing to exercise control over it. We recognize in our law, if you have abandoned something, it becomes what's called res nullius, which means there's no owner. And if it really is truly abandoned, then a state could expropriate it because there's no owner. What worries me about the way that's written is it's abandoned because you didn't exercise control over it. So you can imagine you have a building that you bought and paid for, and it gets hijacked by hijackers, and you now can't control it because other people have it. But you still see it as yours. You haven't actually abandoned it. You would like to evict those hijackers. The state might be able to say, no, it's technically been abandoned, so we're taking it.
Just like we've had a few land grabs over the past, I think like a month ago or something. The EFF took like over 1,000 of its supporters and just went into land and started erecting shacks. I know in my backyard, well, not literally my backyard, I mean like figuratively my backyard, area close to me, there's been land grabs, shacks erected. So, and that used to, the owner of that land, it used to be a racetrack. So, obviously now, if this bill comes into fruition, the government can just be like, well, you don't have control over it, so we're going to take it.
Yeah. So that worries me. D is one that's actually lifted from the Constitution, and I don't have a problem with it. So it matches the text in the Constitution. It's basically where you have a piece of land, but there was a state subsidy, and the value of the subsidy exceeds what the state gave you, or what the thing's worth. So that seems okay. E also worries me. So in a case where you've got a building that has been hijacked and they've ripped out the copper piping in it, now it's a safety hazard. The idea that the state can take it from you and give you nothing, why is that related to the fact that other people came in and destroyed my place? Still mine. So if you go to the top of this piece of legislation, you'll see what the Constitution actually says, because it says it's trying to do this. It's all the way to the top, first page. There's a little preamble. Scroll down a little bit. So that's section 25. And this basically says, one is people can't take your property. You can have expropriation under a limited set of circumstances. And you must pay compensation in terms of 3, and you must take into account a bunch of factors. And those are the factors that are listed. So how is it being used? How was it acquired? What's its value? The way our case law is developed is that the value is the first thing you look at, and then you adjust up or down based on the other things. There's that bit I mentioned is in there about investment from the state, and then the purpose of the expropriation. The idea is that it must be for a public purpose. So you've got to be doing something for the public good when you build it, like when you expropriate. So like building a Caltrain project, roads, a dam, that kind of stuff. But the position in our Constitution is you must pay when you're going to do that. And that's the position in international law as well. So by having this idea that you can just confiscate things from people and pay them nothing, um, then you're breaching our constitution, and that's why I say on its face it's unconstitutional. It might be that it affects a narrow set of people. It's definitely not as bad as the constitutional changes would have been, which would have affected like any South African's home, not just farmland. But it's still undermining property rights. I'd imagine what you'd find, for example, is a lot of people who have large tracts of land that they'd bought. Let's say you bought coastal property because you thought, maybe my little town's going to develop. Overnight, that land could become absolutely worthless, and all these people have lost out on their investments because the state could go and take it from them and pay them nothing, and that seems unjust to me and unconstitutional on its face.
Yeah, so there's a few contradictions.
You've cut out on audio.
Sorry. So there's a few contradictions, to say the least. So you said the next step is what? Where does it go from here?
So it's got to go to the National Council of Provinces. That is a rubber stamping body. So we kind of, like in the States, we have two different houses. So there they have the senators and the and Congress. NCOP are basically delegates from the different provinces, but because the ANC runs 8 of the 9 provinces, and you need a kind of majority, they're just going to stamp it. I think it's a body that's basically useless in practice, but theoretically could become useful down the line. The president's got to sign it.
Which he will.
Sometimes. So there have been presidents who've not signed things because they don't like it. I would think that Ramaphosa is in a political pickle at the moment and wants to show the more radical elements of the ANC. Don't worry, I'm doing something. I promised EWC, and here it is. I'm delivering. So I wouldn't hold your breath thinking that Ramaphosa is going to save us on this front. So yeah. I would expect it to be passed, and then I would expect someone to challenge it.
Yeah. Do you have any okay? So do you think who do you think is going to challenge it?
The usual crew of good guys would be my view, and I'll make it very clear that's none of the traditional left NGOs. Those
Yeah.
guys during the pandemic did sweet fuck all, I think would be the most polite way of putting it. The good guys are going to be AfriForum, Institute for Race Relations, the Free Market Foundation, Sakeliga, Solidarity. Those are the guys who are going to help fight.
Yeah.
And they've been keeping an eye on expropriation and compensation for many years. And we have made it very clear that we will fight you very, very hard. If you think that Zuma is pulling Stalingrad, we will put him to shame on that front. We will ensure that people's property rights are thoroughly protected.
Fantastic. But I wanted to ask you because I think I asked Herman this, and he's in the chats at the moment. Hello, Herman. He says this is why I said I'm not scared about EWC, rather worry about food. And ladies and gentlemen, please go check out that conversation. It was very interesting. I think I asked also Rob because I had Rob Hutchinson on the show. I interviewed him for 10 minutes. And one of my questions I had to him, but I just want to, get your verification on it. If the bill's signed, well, we know it's going to be signed. Cyril needs his little brownie points. It's signed. It's law. Let's say Sakeliga, Solidarity, all those organizations you mentioned decide, okay, we're going to contest it in court. We're going to take it to court. During the time that it's in court and being, battled in court, can the ANC still implement the law?
I would think so, unless there was an order otherwise. So something is a law until set aside. You could obtain interdictory relief to basically say until this is settled, there should be a stay on all expropriation or compensation. And so that's a possibility. That sort of happened in some hate speech cases. So when there was the hate speech definition was initially struck down, there was kind of a pause in a lot of my other litigation to say, look, before you decide, we should see what the Concourt decides on this. So yeah, you could have a situation like that.
Okay, cool. Well, let's hope they do that. Freelance Cage said, I just joined. Will they fight the land expropriation bill? Is Mark Oppenheimer worried about the outcome? Okay, so yes, we are talking about the expropriation bill. We just went through it. So if you want, you can rewind. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to have this interview on its own, in the 1 hour on its own, later on in the week if you want to watch it again or share it. But having said that, Mark, yeah, are you worried about the outcome? I mean, you said there are a few concerns, but in a nutshell, for those who are just tuning in, are you worried?
Yes, it sends a bad signal. I think when you start, one of the things that worries me about it is you go, okay, well, my property is not on that list of 5 things, so I guess it's okay. So the state starts with that stuff, says, you know what, we didn't get much pushback. We took people's stuff, didn't put up much of a fight. Cool. Okay. Well, luckily it's not a closed list. What else can we take? We're running out of money here. We can't keep the lights on. So let's just loot and pillage.
Yeah.
Nothing in a closed list there. So what else can I take?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I'd be worried about it. And I think it's worth fighting hard on it. And I think once property rights start to fail in the country, we know where it goes. If you look at the laws that were changed in Venezuela, they were actually pretty soft. People sort of did the same kind of, Chavez would never want to hurt the people. They would never abuse their authority. I mean, that country, through its abuse of property rights, managed to have one of the world's worst cases of hyperinflation, have 2.5 million people, exit the state, and the others go on the Maduro diet where they lost, 30 kilos. You can have a look at Zimbabwe as well, which, just there, like invading farms, what it didn't just hurt farmers, it led to 90% unemployment. Many Zimbabweans now live in South Africa as in exile because their economy got absolutely ruined. So if you want to, force all your skilled labor out of the country, it's a very quick way. If you want to ensure that you never get any investment again, you want to make sure that AGOA gets cancelled because we're in breach of our agreements with the Americans. Go right ahead, do it. There's some sense in which people often say to me, "It doesn't make sense. This is so irrational. Why would the politicians do this? Surely they must know, the dreadful imperilment that it would put the people that they claim to represent, like all the poverty and devastation that it would cause." But if you're a looting pirate, and you think that the ship is sinking, why not just try and take as much as you can before you head off to Dubai?
Yeah.
It seems there's a lot to be said for it. You know, um,
I said, I think after the last elections, the not the national, the what's it, provisional,
municipal.
municipal elections, because of the way the numbers were for the ANC. Um, I said that what's going to happen now until 2024 is the biggest heist in human history right under our noses. And it's happening. Maybe not the biggest heist, but maybe like biggest heist for South Africa, where, like you just said, they're just going to take what they can. And this is what I was worried about as well, is like it does feel like this bill opens up that door just a little bit more. And it's like, okay, cool, we opened it a little bit. Let's see if we can open it a little bit more until we can take everything that's in the room step by step.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure people remember the story about Pandora's box. Once you
Yep.
crack that thing open, all of hell's greatest visions will fly out. Um,
Yeah, exactly. So Matthew Dixon has a question for you. He says, please ask Mark to expand on 4B regarding property, not limited to land. Will they take intellectual property?
4B. Let's have a look.
I do still have the thing up here. 4B. Did I go past it now? I just see 4.
Yeah. Um, I don't see it in the as subsection 4. I'll tell you what, Matthew. Why don't you copy and paste the exact text into your question, and then we can have a look at it.
Yeah. Um, But yeah, according to this is the new one, the 2022 whatever bill thing. So there is no 4B. Matthew, you could perhaps be looking at an old one. Or if you can tell us what page on the document, that would also help. All right, so yeah, is there anything else to mention on this bill? I don't think so. I mean, like until like you said, it gets signed off and all that other stuff, and then probably going to be contested in court. There's not really much to do or say until then.
Yeah. I mean, I think doing what you're doing now is an important thing, which is making people aware of it. And if you think that you'd be affected by it, start saving so you can donate to those organizations that are going to fight on your behalf.
Okay. Apparently, 4B was on top of the document. Read pages, people. Oh, I see. I see it here. There we go.
Oh, they're referring to the Constitution itself. That's what they mean. So they mean Section 25, 4B.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay, sure. So, yes, property is not limited to land. So, yes, you could expropriate other kinds of property. Uh, there could be an argument for the ability to expropriate something like intellectual property, so like a patent. Um, there's a question as to whether you're depriving someone of it because they might still be able to use it. But for example, let's say you've got a drug company that produces a life-saving medicine, um, and the government wants to be able to provide it for free by producing a generic. You'd be interfering with their trademark rights. And so, there's an argument that what you're doing is expropriating their intellectual property. And then what you need to do is kind of go through that compensation mechanism, provided that you've met the requirement that it acts as an amount of deprivation.
Alrighty. But I mean, does this fall under? So this would fall under the expropriation.
Let's go and have a look at 12.
So like if they wanted to expropriate your bank account, for example.
Yes. So 12.3 specifically refers to land,
Okay.
which is that set that we've looked at.
Okay.
So, yeah, the null compensation bit's only referring to land. That traces back to, if you looked at the history of what that constitutional amendment was going to be, one of the original bits of language that was used referred to land only, and the question put to the public was whether we should allow expropriation of land without compensation. But later versions of the drafts actually didn't refer to land; they referred to all property.
Okay. All right. So we should be okay. But again,
Yes, so at least for the null compensation bit,
yeah,
they can't go and take your novel.
yeah. But like we said, door opening just a little bit could lead to more extreme measures. All right. So moving on, ladies and gentlemen, to I know the topic that a lot of people cannot wait for us to talk about, which is Julius Malema, your best friend, Mark, your pen pal, your brother in arms.
Sure, yeah. No, we got to spend 2 glorious days together in court.
All right. So, firstly, I gotta ask because I know that the viewers are gonna like chomping at the bit, probably. What can you say about the court case regarding Kill the Boer? Let me just, whatever you want to say publicly, comment, whatever you want to say, whatever you can say it now so that everybody is happy and won't ask you
Okay.
about that.
So I'll say that I'm limited in what I can say because I appeared in it and it's ongoing. So I'll give a sense of where it's at, which is on the public record, which is that judgment was handed down. The High Court found that singing "Kill the Boer" and singing "Burn These Boers" as a separate song doesn't amount to hate speech. That matter is on appeal. So the High Court granted what's called leave to appeal. In other words, given us the right to bring an appeal to the Supreme Court of Appeal. So the matter will proceed.
Fantastic. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm not going to ask Mark anything about that case because it is ongoing. Unfortunately, you're all going to have to wait until probably next year to get the this part 2, revenge, revenge of Afriforum. All right. So, but what I wanted to chat to you about is because like it seems like Julius is just untouchable, man. Like the other day, like 2 weeks ago, a week ago, he's in court now, or was in court for that assault charge, which, I mean, at the face of it, right? We watched the video. The whole nation has seen this video. We can see this guy's pushing this officer or whatever. And I listened to the court judgment when it was being given live. And it sounded like the judge was, I don't want to say changing definitions, but very careful to define certain things in the judgment. Like, for example, saying, again, going with intent. There was almost as if to say, well, Julius at the beginning didn't intend to, and while it's not okay for Julius to lay hands on an officer, there was definitely no intent for violence or harm in the act of pushing him. Something, it was a lot of legal jargon that I tried to decipher, and that's what I kind of understood. But at the end of the day, the judge said Julius is found not guilty, from what I can understand, because there was no intent to really harm the guy. Can you make sense of it?
Yes. So ordinarily, if we think about an assault, it's the intentional and unlawful interference with someone else's bodily integrity. So you've got to check whether you've met the different stages. So was there interference with bodily integrity? Yes. He shoved the guy, right? Okay. Was it unlawful? Now, ordinarily, it's presumed to be unlawful when you interfere with someone's bodily integrity, unless you have a justification. So the justification that Julius gives is he says, well, I believe that I had a right to enter this setting, to participate in the funeral, and this guy was blocking me. So therefore, I was justified in using physical force to obtain entry. And there the court says, no, you weren't. That's not a justification. It remains unlawful. You can't do that. Okay. And then you have a thing that's called a putative justification, which is that when you believed that what you were doing was justifiable. So I'll give you a good example. Someone comes at me with a gun, okay, and I shoot them in self-defense, okay. We go, okay, that's full proper self-defense. They were endangering your life. The gun's loaded with the bullets. No problem, self-defense. Okay. We inspect the body and we look at it and we go, actually, it wasn't a real gun and the bullets were blanks. Okay. But it was very reasonable to believe that it was a real gun. If you look at that thing, anyone in that moment would have believed it was a real gun. So you weren't actually defending your life because there was no actual threat. So putative self-defense, that's going to be a defense. Here the judge says, or the magistrate says, no, it's not putative either. So he then moves over and says, well, because you didn't believe what you were doing was wrong, it was unintentional. That seems like a confusion to my mind. We have a thing called awareness of the wrongfulness in law, but the classic case of unintentional could be where you're so drunk that you don't know what you're doing, or you lose control of your body because you have an epileptic fit. So there's a case of a person who has an epileptic fit while holding a knife and stabs his sister to death. He says, I know I stabbed her to death. I didn't have a defense, but I didn't intend to do it because I lost control of my body. This seems that Julius very much did intend to push the guy. And so it seems that intent is there. And I would think that there is no justification and that there's a sort of jazz hands that goes on here that tries to explain it away. So yeah, I have that concern. We'll see if there's any further moves in the case. There is a worry, of course, as you say, that Julius is Mr. Teflon, and that's either we have justice for everybody and the rules apply to everybody, or we don't. And I think if people get the sense that some people, especially if they're well-connected politicians, can get away with things that undermines the justice system. Now, maybe there's some room for debate in this case, and we shall see. But there is a dangerous signal that could be perceived to be said. I mean, I think Steve Hofmeyr said, Julius Malema is an incredible legal innovator because he's redefined what assault is and what hate speech is.
Yeah, well, that's kind of true. I mean, it worries me because, look, I mean, I'll say it because I think I can say it while that hate speech bill is still being drawn up. I think either the judge was bought or someone threatened him in some way. He was scared, and he worked really hard to come up with this judgment that is so, I mean, it's like the judgment with the case you were working on. There's so many gaps, there's so many inconsistencies, contradictions, because one moment he's saying no, it was wrong for Julius to lay the hand on the officer, whatever, blah blah, and we could all see that, but like you said, it's like, yeah, but he wasn't, I don't know what legal jargon to basically say, like, yeah, but you know what, you didn't mean it, man. It's okay. It's like, what? Like, this guy assaulted another guy, and he's just getting away with it. And I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with the firearm situation now, because, I mean, that I think was postponed until early next year. The evidence is mounting against Julius. It's going to be very difficult for him to weasel out of this one. But I don't know. In a way, I wouldn't be surprised if he does get away with it.
One thing I'll say about that firearms case. So when I was cross-examining Mr. Malema, I said to him, when you sing "Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer," you don't just sing the song; you accompany it with hand gestures which look like guns, and you're going "pow, pow, pow." And he said, "Well, if we meant it, I would stand on a stage with a real gun." So I then said to him, "Would you do that?" And he freaked out and refused to answer. And I said, "Why won't you answer?" And he said, "Well, because I'm being prosecuted for standing on a stage with a real gun and firing into the air, so I can't say anything further." Once my case concluded, that criminal case was meant to go on the next week, and the prosecutor resigned from the NPA. She said, "I'm not willing to endure the abuse that Mr. Oppenheimer went through." We had I can say this, which is some unprecedented stuff happened in our case, which is that we had people invade the court and sing Dibulu Bunu at us, breaking into the courthouse. We had people outside the court singing "Kill the Boer" at us, blockading us, not letting us exit the building, not letting us enter the building. So you've got physical threats. We go to court with bodyguards, and sometimes those bodyguards have to jump into action to protect us. So I think this prosecutor said, "I don't want to go through that," and resigned, not just from the case, but from the profession. And so someone else had to be appointed on the day. They were given an extra day to prep, and that's it. So that's why we've had some postponements in the matter. But that's the worry that you have, as you say, is that when you've got external pressures, how do you ensure that justice is done? That's a worry.
Sorry, Mark, did you say from the profession?
Yeah, she's not a prosecutor anymore.
Not even a lawyer, or just just specifically prosecutor?
Not at the NPA.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what she's done since.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I thought you made it sound like she completely gave up law and went into, I don't know, jewelry making or something. But still, either way, that's pretty hectic for someone to experience that and then be so freaked out that they would decide, you know what, this is not worth it. But that's in a way, it's like it really does make me think that this man Julius has so much influence that either he scares people, pays for them, and that's the scary part. I mean, I think it's no secret that in South Africa we live in a kind of a mafia state, so it's not beyond a reasonable doubt to suggest that Julius may be paying to win some of his cases. But I mean, at some point, something's got to give, because again, with the firearm situation, it's very hard to deny that he's shooting that gun. Number one. Number two, there's ballistics evidence, as far as I remember. So that also ties you to the gun. And they said that they argued that, oh, we were shooting blanks, but there was a gun expert there to say, no, that's not true. There's evidence that there was real bullets fired. So yeah, the only thing I can think of that might go wrong is that evidence goes missing, and then it's dismissed.
Well, we wait to see. I mean, there's another case that's been hovering in the wings. So he was charged with breaching the Rights Assemblies Act, which is a kind of speech crime where you call on people to commit a crime. In this case, it was invading land. And so they challenged the constitutionality of the Right Assemblies Act, and the Constitutional Court looked at it and said it's fine. And so we would have expected the prosecution to have continued by now. And I think that was handed down pre-COVID. So, that's a worry. Where's the NPA on that? In other words, you've got the go-ahead to prosecute on this thing, complete the job. I mean, one of the reasons why the firearms case went ahead is because, AfriForum said, if you don't prosecute, we'll do it. Give us an LA prosecutor, and then suddenly they said, okay, fine, we'll do it. So AfriForum are there on a watching brief. We, of course, see the dark side of private prosecutions with what's happening to Karen Moore at the moment. I mean, this is like an absolute outrage where, Jacob Zuma is trying to privately prosecute her for disclosing a document that became public by the time she'd reported on it, medical records which were in a public, court document. This is just an absolute abuse of process and basically trying to terrorize, one of the dominant legal journalists that we have in the country. That seems, and the person prosecuting him, very distasteful.
Let me ask you something, Mark. I mean, you experience now Julius in court. I think you handled yourself very well. Would you do it again?
In a heartbeat. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think someone's got to do it. Someone's got to hold people to account. I will say this as well, which is, I mentioned this before, advocates have the cab rank rule, which is, even if I felt uncomfortable, even if I didn't want to do it, if I'm asked, I'm obliged, and I think that's one of the things that is an important part of the profession, is that we, don't pick our clients. We act for those that ask. And I think, unfortunately, that cab rank principle has become less and less popular. I definitely get the sense that, not everybody approves of the work that I do and will hold that against me. But so be it.
Well, I mean, like you said, someone's got to do it, man. And you're always going to have haters. So if you're not hated, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So
When you're on your deathbed, you want everyone to say, you know what? Mark was such a sweetheart. He was such a nice guy. Like, never offended anybody, never ruffled any feathers, never did anything particularly impressive though. But
I think they'll still say that, except for the last part. You are a nice guy. You are like all that stuff, sweet and all that stuff. And even with like Julius, you were very calm, and he was freaking out, and you were just like, calm nerves, like so calm, and I don't know, man. I think that kind of ruffled his feathers even more, because I think he likes chaos, and you were just so patient and calm that he just couldn't figure you out. But
Look, I've had a lot of practice. It's been 370 years since I arrived in 1652. So you kind of that ocean ride from Holland all the way here. And you're very calm.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that lovely note, Mark, I just want to thank you once again for joining me on the show. It's a great conversation tonight. We touched on quite a few topics, and we'll definitely keep an eye on this stuff. I'll have you back again, I'm sure. We'll see what the judgment of the firearm case is going to be. We'll see how the appeal goes. We'll talk about that stuff. So we'll definitely have you back again soon. Mark, is there anything you want to say in closing? But before you do, let me just check. Yes, so... Okay, no, there's no more questions. Cool. So is there anything you want to say in closing?
Yeah, Joe, it's been great being on the show. I always enjoy it. For those that are interested in the litigation that I do, I've got a personal channel on YouTube that's Mark Oppenheimer, where I keep a list of those cases and submissions to Parliament, and you can watch the videos. For those that are interested in something of a different nature, I run a philosophy discussion show with Jason Werbelow called Brain in a Vat. We've done about 140 episodes now, and yeah, all sorts of weird and wonderful, interesting thought experiments, and we've had some of the world's best philosophers on there. So if you're looking for something a bit different, have a look.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, please go give that a subscribe. Mark, once again, thank you for your time. I'll chat to you later.
Cool.
Cheers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mark Oppenheimer, advocate in South Africa, went toe-to-toe with the EFF, and that case also bogus judgment, I think, and luckily it is being appealed. We'll probably get to know more about what happens with that next year, ladies and gentlemen. Freelance Kate gave a question earlier. She says, if it's so serious, why aren't people talking about the land expropriation in the news? Well, because news media outlets, ladies and gentlemen, or corporate media, as we call them now, have been bought, and they won't talk about the truth about expropriation bill. That's why you got to rely on channels like this. CRA, by the way, Center for Risk Analysis, do talk about it, and they do try and tell people about the expropriation bill and the truth about the expropriation bill. Mark himself has been on that channel a few times. Big Daddy Liberty, Ronaldo House, Morning Shot, they all talk about the expropriation bill and try to warn South Africans, as well as Conscious Caracal and a whole list of others, ladies and gentlemen, even Chris Wyatt and so on and so forth. Please go check out those channels as soon as you can. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully I'll feel better tomorrow. I'm really hoping I feel better tomorrow. But I will be back on Thursday with Comedians Roast the Headlines, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to be a fun one, so do not miss out. Ladies and gentlemen, also thank you so much for watching. Hendo, Debbie Murray, thank you so much. Helen, Gavin, JC McFarlane, Voot, Umlungo is here, Michael Venter, Freelance Kate, who else? Matthew Dixon, Lars Solis, and the list goes on and on. If I didn't mention you, I'm sorry. Matthew Finlayson. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Then most of South Africa doesn't know about it. Well, the ANC also wants to keep it hush-hush because at the end of the day, they want a situation where it's like, by the time you realize, it's too late. It's kind of what the mafia does. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, keep safe, be kind to one another, and I will see you at the next one. Cheers.